Bend Around the Wind by Skylia. Chapter 59. Stage 1. Stark did not exaggerate about his wealth. Drongo did not need to know Earth thoroughly to recognize finery. Stark said this was only one of his many residences, and Loki confirmed that his tower was quite impressive as well. Stark just snorted and shook his head when Loki brought that up. It was clear, of course, that Loki only knew Stark's tower because he had laid siege on it, in a manner of speaking, but that was not important anymore. In the last couple of months, Stark was working tirelessly to prepare everything for his return home. He tinkered with the Iron Mage's systems endlessly, wanting to make sure that it would be compatible with his own technology on Earth. Stark was quiet for long moments when he first laid eyes on the blue planet, and Drongo knew how he must have felt. He always left his home voluntarily, and he still missed it immensely. Stark was taken against his will, and for a very long time, he did not even think that he would see his home ever again. Drongo would have felt his heart in his throat as well. He would not have been ashamed of tears either. Stark was just quiet, staring at the globe in silence, the expression on his face containing too many emotions at once. But then, when the voice of the computer Stark called Jarvis first sounded from the speakers of the bridge, Stark's quiet awe morphed into a bright, glassy-eyed grin. "Welcome home, Mr. Stark." That was all the computer said, and Stark grinned and laughed like it was the best sound he had ever heard. Drongo understood why Stark worked so hard to be able to integrate his creation into the central system of the ship. Stark had called him an artificial intelligence, and truly, if Drongo wouldn't have known that it was a machine, he would have thought they were interacting with a clever living being. Jarvis immediately followed Stark's instructions and started preparing everything for his return. He was indeed very useful, and Stark didn't forget to emphasize that he had access to everything he owned, and even much more through Jarvis, and to all information that could be necessary for them. Drongo also did not miss the way Stark had to reclassify Loki from hostile to friend the moment the computer had warned Stark of the other's presence on the ship. At least the computer, like Jarvis, did not question why. He obeyed right away when Stark told him that Loki's file was outdated. They'd arrived at night, so Drongo did not have the chance to see the surface well. Only the night lights of the city were visible, but the landscape was not the most interesting part of their journey. As they approached the planet, Drongo started to feel a slow, pulsating energy emitting from all around him. It was not the old power, so that answered one question. His ancestors clearly did not visit Stark's planet, but there was something else here. He could still feel the pull of the power cosmic as well, but that was never something he could use. He turned to Loki right away, because he had been on the planet before. He had to know what it was. The god just smiled at him. "That is the power of the Yggdrasil you feel," Loki said. "We have entered the 9 realms. "So what, you can boost up using the Yggdrasil then?" Stark asked. Drongo wanted to sigh about the way Stark talked so flippantly about the gifts of the old strong, but he knew he had to pick his battles.
"I do not know as of yet,"
he said.
"I will have to explore the energy and see how my body reacts to it. I cannot feel it as strongly as I feel the old power, so I probably won't be able to use it to the same extent. Maybe I won't be able to use it at all. Also, even using the old power for an excessive amount of time can cause severe fatigue in my body. Using the power Yggdrasil can be even more dangerous. I will have to be very careful about my interaction with it, but it is promising that I can feel it, to the very least."
Then they met Stark's friends, his family really, from the way he talked about them. It was, of course, Loki's presence that caused them to go from disbelieving, but welcoming, to weary and dense. Not that they did not expect that, so like planned, Stark departed for a private conversation with his friends after a few parting words, leaving the man named Happy Hogan with them. It was at least the sign of some level of trust, leaving one of theirs alone with them. "This house is huge," Juyu said. "And posh. I feel like I'm gonna make the furniture dirty if I sit down." "Who cares?" Etcha said as he flopped down into a large leather chair. "You heard him, his home is our home, and he could just buy new furniture every day if he wanted to. This is base of operations from now on, so we gotta make ourselves comfortable." The human man was standing at the other side of the room, shifting from foot to foot. He was obviously not comfortable. Then B started walking out of the room. I think she wants to explore, Juyu said. Drongo agreed. I'm gonna go with her. Jarvis will let you know if you need to come back, Loki told them. It was clear already that Loki was right about the necessity of the Allspeak. It was integral for their stay here. Only being able to communicate with Stark, Loki, and Hatchet would have limited them significantly. Drongo was more than willing to have such an asset, not just for now, but for his future travels as well. It was the greatest gift he could think of, and he was grateful for receiving it. Loki was first hesitant about planting the seed of knowledge, as he called it, in B's mind. Drongo understood his concerns. She was sane for the most part, but not completely balanced. There were risks, even with healthy minds. There was even more for B. And again, Skrulls were the most different from the rest of them. Juyu volunteered to be given the knowledge first, so that Loki got to know the differences, if there were some. He was hesitant even then, but Juyu insisted that they were not to be left out. She had accepted and adjusted to the shift quicker and smoother than Drongo and Stark had. It merely took about an hour for the magical seed to take and evolve completely. Drongo theorized that since the Skrulls were able to change their bodies on a molecular level, their bodies were used to all sorts of alterations. Indeed, if they could shift their lungs to be able to breathe any kind of air, readjust their organs to accommodate excessive gravity, then a tiny little change in their cerebral cortex was really not all that monumental. Reassured by the ease with which Juyu adjusted, Loki agreed to gift the Allspeak to B as well. She did not speak, but that did not mean she did not need to understand when others talked to her. Fortunately, there were no complications with her either. She adjusted a little slower than Juyu, but still much easier than Stark and Drongo.
No need to be wary, Mr. Hogan.
Drongo spoke up when the man shifted on his feet again.
We are all friends of Stark, just as you are yourself.
The man stared at him for a moment, then an awkward smile spread on his face. Yep, sorry about that. Not used to the alien thing yet. Give it a day or two and I'll be good. And call me Happy. That's not your real name, is it? Hatchet asked. Nah, it's a nickname, but it's better than the real one. Stark nicknamed you? Hatchet asked again. Yeah, he does that a lot, Happy answered. Pepper and Rhodey are not actual first names either, if you were wondering.
Well, I am Drongo the Old Strong from Sakaar.
Drongo greeted. It was only polite. Stark ran off before proper introductions could be made.
This is Hatchet of Alfheim, and Loki you already know, probably.
Yep, I heard of him, Happy said, carefully not even looking at Loki. Hey, Jarvis! Hatchet called. What can I do for you? The computer asked. Could you show us how Midgard thinks about Tony Stark? I heard his fame is great and the love for him even greater. Would you care for a retrospective summary, or do you only need the current general consensus about him? Let's start with the current state of affairs, Hatchet asked. Drongo did not stop his inquiries. It was valuable information that could influence Stark's and Loki's plans, after all. He paid careful attention instead, and knew that Loki did too. Mr. Hogan departed from the room after a tiny melody sounded from his pocket, leaving Loki, Hatchet, and Drongo alone in the living area listening to Jarvis. Stark's friend, Colonel Rose, joined them after a while. Stark called him Rhodey, but Drongo did not want to be overly familiar with someone he did not know yet. So Loki I know, and that's the guy I'm supposed to ignore. He nodded at Hatchet. Wait, where are the green girls? Currently exploring the gym, Colonel Rhodes. Jarvis answered helpfully, pausing his long explanations about how much the world still mourned and missed the Iron Man.
And I am Drongo.
Drongo introduced himself once again. Okay, not meant as an offense, but damn, you're big, the Colonel said. Drongo chuckled lightly. So where did Tony pick you up on his way back?
I'm from the Fornax galaxy,
Drongo answered.
It is approximately 500,000 light years away from here.
Rhodes whistled. That's quite the trip, he said.
You and B are from the Andromeda,
Drongo said.
My home is quite close compared to that.
And you're planning to stay here on Earth?
Stark is our commander,
Drongo answered.
We will go where he goes.
Of course, Stark did not make his decisions alone, but together with Loki. He also listened to the opinions of the rest of them, but while on Earth, it was best if Stark's allies were assured that their friend was in charge. The rest of them were strange, alien, possibly dangerous creatures on a planet that did not have good experiences with races besides their own. Insinuating in any way that Loki was in charge as well would not be too fortunate either. He was going to be distrusted the most, and he knew it very well. Stark was way too pleased about being called Commander by all of them on his home planet. Even Hatchet agreed with Loki's insistence. Drongo knew why it was different here than out in space, so he could be nothing but amused by Stark's delight. All of you, Rhodes asked. All of us, Loki replied from his spot by the wall. Colonel Rhodes, Miss Potts is asking you to join her and Mr. Stark again. Jarvis spoke up, and the colonel turned and walked out of the room again. Jarvis, continue your review, Loki asked as soon as they were alone again. I told you and B to come back here. Right away, sir. The computer responded. From the way Miss Potts's gaze zeroed on Loki the second she returned with Stark and Rhodes, Drongo knew that the two of them have been informed in full now. She did not say anything to him, though. Her eyes lingered on him for a second, then shifted to look at the rest of them. She also sent a small smile towards Mr. Hogan, who has returned as well. Ju and B walked back into the room only moments earlier. Stark, for his part, held up two thumbs and smiled as he walked back into the room, making it obvious for all of them that the discussion with his friends went well. So, now that we have all the boring explanations out of the way, let's look at the introduction to Fisher, okay? The crew already heard a lot about you guys, so now you need to learn about the crew. Nobody said anything, so Stark went on after a very brief moment. Okay, ladies first. B and her little sister, Juyu. Stark started. They're Skrulls, aka reptilians, which is something unusual here, but trust me, I was the weird creature in the Andromeda with all my warm blood. Again, fair warning, B does not like to be touched by strangers. Give her some time to get used to you. She doesn't talk at all, so she's not being rude or anything. Juyu waved. B stared and nodded once. How old are you? Miss Potts asked, looking at the girls. We're adults, Juyu answered, which was always her answer when someone asked her that. Shouldn't she be in school or something? She asked, looking at Stark. Consider her homeschooled, Stark answered right away. Yeah, moving on. Drongo is polite, so he probably already introduced himself, but I'm going to do it again just in case. Drongo is an old strong from Zakar. He's ridiculously zen all the time, and I'm pretty sure he could arm wrestle the Hulk. We might have to test that out. No, we do not, Drongo said. Shame. Stark smirked. Don't let all that muscle fool you. He added, he's my second pilot and knows everything. A little about everything, Drongo corrected, and he bowed his head in greeting. Snow White over there is Hatchet, aka Asshole. He's an elf. Well, fairy elf, I'm still not sure. You're such a sweet talker, Stark, Hatchet grinned sharply. You know you secretly love me. He's a mage up and in the ass, and it's best if you ignore like 80% of what's coming out of his mouth. Stark continued. Yeah, we have good practice with that, Rhodes remarked. That made Hatchet snicker delightedly. Don't encourage him. Stark looked at his friend, who just shrugged. And my dear Loki, you might want to stop creeping in that dark corner over there. Stark said then, come on. Loki huffed, but pushed himself away from the wall to walk closer to the rest of them. He was deliberately out of the center of attention so far. I know I don't have to introduce you, but maybe a reintroduction is in order, and you've never met in person anyway. Drongo did not miss the way the humans, besides Stark, tensed slightly when Loki got close, but the god did not react to it at all. Loki Asgard, battle mage extraordinaire, the reason I'm alive, Stark said in a fun and warm tone that was usually reserved for Loki only. Loki nodded in greeting. The colonel nodded in return, but Miss Potts just stared at him evenly, her face stern and contemplative. Okay, we got the pleasantries out of the way, let's get down to business. Stark clapped his hands, breaking the small, tense silence. Jarvis, how's your progress? He asked. My upload to the Iron Mage unit is at 76%, Jarvis reported. The scans for the Mark Firebird are now available in the workshop, and I have updated your personal database by the so far registered properties of the metal Alindor and your piezoelectric discoveries. Once the merging is complete, you will be able to access the rest of the Iron Mage database from here. Excellent. Stark nodded. Keep everything in my private server. Maximum security. You haven't been idle while you were away, huh? Brody asked. Oh, you have no idea. Stark grinned. I have a lot to give the world. So, you spoke with your friends, Juyu said. We're moving forward? Yes, this house is now the #1 base of operations. He started. Keep to rules number 1 and number 2, like we agreed. The rest do not apply here. Rule number 9, only if we're strictly in radio connection. Pepper? Stark turned to her. I want you to start preparing the paperwork and everything else for my resurrection, but please keep it a secret. I don't want anyone to know I'm back yet. And when exactly do you plan to let the world know that you're back? What's the date again? Stark asked. April 5th, 2018. Jarvis answered helpfully. Oh, my birthday's coming up. That sounds good. 3 weeks is enough to get everything done. What do you need to prepare? Miss Potts asked. A lot of things for Stark Industries and other things for Iron Man. I want a huge media coverage, okay? Plan a party, make it loud, make it big, make it grand. I want journalists and reporters everywhere. Dancing aeronets, fireworks. I want people, kids, families, my fans. Make it a huge crowd, masses of people. Our stocks are going to skyrocket again, Ms. Potts said thoughtfully. It can be a huge, victorious return. The people will love it. Do you want a press conference right after, too? Nah, make it an interview. You pick the reporter. I want it broadcasted online and as many TV channels as possible, even in radios. Personal and intimate setting. She nodded. But you have to tell me what you're planning to say in that interview. I won't improvise, trust me, Stark said. There's too much at stake. Fine, I get things started. She nodded. Thank you. Now, Jarvis, is the workshop down here 100% operational, then? You will have to make some changes if you wish to use a DNI connection here as well, Jarvis told him. And out of your suits, only Mark 5 is operational. Mark 6 and Mark 7 are still damaged. Dum E is likewise out of order. Dum E? Why? Stark frowned. You have expressed your wish to repair him yourself after the attack on the house, so he's been put aside for your return. Oh, I remember, Stark said faintly, then turned to Loki. Okay, can we put a little pause on how we plan to move forward? It's your creations, of course. Go, Loki said. They all knew how much his inventions meant to Stark. Okay, Pep, start planning. Brody, just keep quiet, I suppose. Oh, we'd like the 3 wise monkeys, Brody answered, whatever that meant. Great. Stark nodded. He stopped for a moment next to Loki to grab his hand and put a kiss on his knuckles, then he stormed out of the room towards his workshop. And what do we do now? Juyu asked. Settle in, Loki said. Pick out your rooms. It's already late night here, so sleep if you want, or at least get some rest. We have 3 weeks, plenty of time for everything. Hatchet did not move yet, but Juyu and Bee got up from the couch, gathering their bags. They all stopped when Miss Potts marched over to Loki, though. She did not say anything at first, just stared at his face. Lady Pepper? Loki prompted. His face was neutral, and his body language as calm and open as possible. He knew how important she was to Stark. They all knew that. I'm not going to threaten you. It's vulgar, she started in a pleasant tone. I will keep a close eye on you, and leave it to your imagination what will happen in case you do something I do not like. I do have a vivid imagination, Loki said. Thought so, Miss Potts said in return. She then turned to look at the rest of them. A wide, sweet smile spread on her face immediately. It was so very nice to meet you all, she said kindly, then turned to leave right away. Her high heels were tapping loudly on Stark's expensive floor with every step. Mr. Hogan raised a hand in an awkward wave before he followed her out quickly. Anything to add, Colonel Rhodes? Loki asked. I think you're smart enough to know the consequences without me having to warn you, he said. But keep in mind that we trust Tony. Others won't. He added, Jarvis let Tony know that I'm going to stay the night and will leave tomorrow morning. Yes, Colonel Rhodes, Jarvis replied. The man nodded once in their general direction, then left the room. I think I like them, Juyu said then. I think Stark is a type, Hatchet chuckled. She's something, all right, Loki agreed quietly. Drongo grabbed his bag and followed the girls out of the living area then. Hatchet and Loki started discussing something else, and Drongo did not doubt for a second that it was about the plans concerning the rest of the 9 realms. Drongo did not want to worry about that just yet. They had plenty to do here on Earth first. At least stage 1 went as smoothly as possible, even better than Stark expected. Unfortunately, Drongo knew things would only get harder from now on.